Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of year once again. The most exciting time in all of pro wrestling. The most exciting season, or at least used to be. The most exciting season in all of pro wrestling. It is WrestleMania season. I did a pretty damn good job at getting you possibly excited about WrestleMania, but I know you're not. How is WWE getting everybody excited for WrestleMania season? Are they bringing up a future NXT talent that they label the future of the company? Maybe he gets or she gets a world title shot at WrestleMania by winning the Royal Rumble. Maybe they get the wheels in motion to have that talent become a household name of sorts in the WWE. Maybe WWE is engaging in long-term storytelling with logical plots that make sense on a consistent basis, week to week. Maybe they're getting fans invested to watch Raw and SmackDown week to week going into WrestleMania season. Or maybe they think the better idea is to bring back an aging dinosaur that should not be on television anymore. He should be in a retirement home somewhere dreaming of his fucking Ford Mustangs. Bill Goldberg. Bill Goldberg. That is WWE's answer to WrestleMania season. That is their answer to dying ratings on Monday night. Now, I know everybody is afraid. You may be more deathly afraid after you hear the podcast today. Deathly afraid of what is to come, because everybody undoubtedly has a fear that Drew McIntyre is going to drop the WWE title at the Royal Rumble to Bill Goldberg, and we are going to get that dreaded match that nobody wants with Roman Reigns and Bill Goldberg at WrestleMania 37. What are the plans for Bill Goldberg? What is WWE's mindset by bringing Bill Goldberg back? Why did they bring him back? Is there a prayer that Drew McIntyre walks out of the Royal Rumble with the WWE Championship? Yes, but it's very, very slim. I am here to talk about everything that came out of that terrible segment on Monday night and why it's happening and why WWE brought back Bill Goldberg in the first place and why Bill Goldberg is not a draw in 2021. Imagine being one of these geeks who thinks Bill Goldberg is a draw in 2021 because of YouTube views after his appearance on Monday night. Also, WWE seems to be chasing down one Jay White because his New Japan Pro Wrestling contract is set to expire. Is Jay White coming to the WWE? I have all the news on Jay White and why he should not come to the WWE after his exit from Wrestle Kingdom. Also, WWE chasing down Marty Scurll as well. Is there any interest in Marty Scurll? And 2 NXT talents are set to be called up imminently. And what that means is that their careers are done imminently. Who are they and why are they being called up? I got all this wrapped up into one show. This is episode 359 right here on Off the Scripts.
Delete this man.
Alive with people still What is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining me right here on Off the Script. This is episode 359 for your Saturday, January 9th, 2021. And I'm rubbing my palms together, man, because A, there's a lot of news in the world of pro wrestling that we are going to talk about today. But it brings me great pleasure and great joy. It makes me giddy to talk about Bill Goldberg in the most negative of light because I can't stand Bill Goldberg. And he's the topic of discussion today. The main story is Bill Goldberg and Drew McIntyre and what transpired on Monday Night Raw. Brings me great pleasure, man. There are still people out there. It pains me. It pains me as an analyst and as a podcaster in this great community of ours. This community of ours where people still look at Bill Goldberg as being a draw in 2021. It pains me that the people of this community look at Bill Goldberg showing up on Monday night in the same way that Sting showed up in AEW. In the same way that Chris Jericho was crowned the first ever AEW champion. It pains me to know that people are this fucking stupid. It really does. I didn't really think that people could be that stupid, but here we are. And I have to discuss about all these things on the show once again because good old Bill wants to show face again and asks for a undeserved title shot that nobody wants to see him get. Unbelievable, man. I don't want to waste any more of your time. So we're going to jump right into it. Let me shill myself for about 45 seconds. If you guys missed any of the videos on the channel, Monday Night Raw and the live stream is down in the description below. Go and check that out if you missed it. Along with that, AEW and SmackDown. Go and check those out if you missed them. And I want to thank everybody who showed up, super chatted, hung out, and really enjoyed themselves during this week's live streams, man. We kicked off 2021 in the right way, so thank you guys for that. Follow me on social media, at JD from NY206. That is Twitter and Instagram. We got a lot of stuff going on the Instagram as well. I'm going to be a little bit more active on the Instagram as I promote the new show with Big Hodge, my boy Jason, Big Hodge Media. We got the CNC coming up. And if you guys were following me on Twitter, you would have seen the new teaser, which kind of gives you a closer look at what the show is going to be about still. It's under wraps. I can't say much of anything and where we're going as far as direction, but hopefully you guys enjoy that. It's on the Twitter channel, or the Twitter page rather, right now, so go and check that out. I pinned it at the very top. Make sure you guys go and get your t-shirts, man. Bonfire.com is the exclusive home of Off the Script. Go and get your new t-shirts there. Bonfire has been great partner, great quality as always. That's the most important thing, great quality. If you guys want your t-shirts and a way to support the show, that is a great way to do that. Mouthmasker.com. Go and get your Off the Script masks. That's mouthmasker.com/OTS. Another great way is the Patreon page. Thank you to everybody that's joined the Patreon family. Patreon.com/JD from NY206. The Off the Script engraved beer mugs, cookies, t-shirts. We got an exclusive Are We Live t-shirt right there as well. Upon sign up, you guys get instant access to our Discord server. We got a great group of people in the Off the Script Discord, so make sure you guys go and check that out. Very small, very private. Everybody loves each other. Really great stuff in there. I monitor it all the time. I might not say much, but I monitor it all the time, man. Thank you guys for being you. I love you, and thank you for supporting. Follow me on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/JD from New York. If you're into that video game stuff, we're on there doing some gaming. I may mix some wrestling content in there from time to time. You don't want to miss out on anything. And we are pushing towards 10,000 followers on Twitch, so make sure you guys go and do that. And finally, I want to spend a little time talking about my sponsor, DrSquatch.com. You're going to use code SCRIPT at checkout, 20% off. You guys get to save on legitimately anything on the sites. That is Dr. Squatch, man. I don't want you guys, feeling down about yourself going into the new year. I want you looking your best, smelling your best, and feeling your best with all the great products they have on Dr. Squatch. Soaps, shampoos, conditioners, toothpastes, deodorant. You name it, man. They got what you need to keep your hygiene game at the top, man. You're going to be feeling like Roman Reigns at the end of this thing. Believe me. DrSquatch.com. Use code SCRIPT at checkout. And I want to thank them for supporting Off the Script. And a special shout out, because I love it so much, they're not paying me to do so. Liquid Death, man. The best sparkling water that I've had in a very long time. Shout out to them. They're sending me a care package just because I love the shit so much. and I want to thank them for being a great product, man. When I say something is great, I want you guys to go and check them out. Liquid Death, sparkling water, carbonated like beer, man. You speak my language when you're saying shit like that. Believe me. Let's get into the news, man. I want to start off a little light. Before we get into the middle of this baked ziti. And I love me some baked ziti, man, but I don't love Bill Goldberg. Fuck Bill Goldberg. Fuck him. Okay? We'll mention more about that a little bit later, but let me start off at the top here, man. Royal Rumble. We just turned the page into 2021, and I was hoping that we would have some sense of normalcy going into 2021. Maybe fans. I know wrestling has been ravaged by no fans and no life. Fans at wrestling shows are the lifeblood of these shows. It's a make or break situation with crowds. We've seen it all through the years watching Monday Night Raw. I was hoping that when we turn the page into 2021, that at least at the Royal Rumble, we would have some fans. I'm not expecting WWE to fill Tropicana Field with 40,000 people. I would never expect them to do that. But AEW had over 1,000 people for Brody Lee's tribute show in a venue that has 5,500 capacity at Daly's Place. AEW usually has 600 to 700 people, maybe somewhere towards 900 maybe on any given Wednesday night, depending on how stacked the show is. I know it's difficult to run in the same venue, in the same market, all these weeks in a row for an entire year. But AEW has had the capability, and they've taken the proper precautions to give people an outlet to go to these shows, which I absolutely love because the shows have been enhanced by their presence being there. I'm not expecting WWE to fill Tropicana Field, but I don't want to watch virtual virgins on the Thunderdome screen all through the Royal Rumble. I wanted a sense of normalcy going into 2021. I didn't want the Royal Rumble to end up like everything else before it. I don't want to hear a virtual soundtrack of people counting down from 10 all the way until the buzzer goes off when someone comes out for the Royal Rumble. It's not the same. And when Edge is rumored to make his return to the WWE again, we're going to have it done with no fans being there? Give me a break, man. This is the start of WrestleMania season. I would have taken anything. 50, 100, 200, 300, something. 1,000. Something. Anything would have been better. 1,000 people can make a lot. 500 people can make a lot of noise. I need some life. And WWE has not done anything. Now, I don't want to sit here and blame WWE for their lack of doing anything about life at these shows. Maybe they're not physically capable of doing that. Maybe they have a written agreement with Fox. I don't know. Maybe Fox is going to give them the okay to do it when they can. I know when they were in the Amway Center, there was a written contractual obligation to the Amway Center that they were not allowed to have fans in the Amway Center. Maybe it's the same thing with Tropicana Field. I don't know, you don't know, we don't know. But I would hope, or would have hoped, that things would have changed. Now, the Super Bowl is happening in February. And I think WWE is definitely getting fans at WrestleMania. By hook or by crook, there will be fans at WrestleMania. I think WWE is going to ride out January. I think they're going to ride out the Elimination Chamber in February. And I think come March, we will get WWE getting fans in attendance at WrestleMania. I think they're waiting for the Super Bowl to finish to gauge on how many people the NFL have. And then in typical WWE fashion, if the NFL has 25,000 for the Super Bowl, WWE may push it to 30,000 just so that they could shill themselves. Oh, look, we outdrew the Super Bowl. Or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, I think they're looking at what the NFL is doing with the Super Bowl to gauge on if they are fully capable of having that number of people inside that venue. Because the Super Bowl and WrestleMania are taking place in the same venue, Raymond James Stadium, again being that it couldn't happen last year for WWE. But there will be no fans at the Royal Rumble, as reported by John Alba, who is a news reporter down in the Orlando area. He says, and I quote, multiple sources indicate there are currently no plans for WWE to have fans at the Royal Rumble. As I've noted, it's pro wrestling. Plans are always subject to change, but the plan as of now January 7 does not include fans in attendance at Tropicana Field. Florida has 17,783 new cases of COVID announced as of Wednesday. And then he ends the quote with that. Now, the NFL, like I said, is holding Super Bowl this year in Tampa with limited amount of fans at Raymond James Stadium, where WrestleMania 36 was supposed to take place. Now WrestleMania 37 is being given to Tampa again because they were ousted last year because of COVID. Now WWE is looking at the Super Bowl as their foundation for what they are going to do next. We're going to have to live with it, fans. We're going to have to live with it and live with the fact that there will be no live human beings at the Royal Rumble. Simple. So don't get your hopes up on seeing any life at Tropicana Field on January 31st. I'm sad. I know you guys don't like it, but it is what it is. We got to deal with this just a little bit longer. Vince McMahon changes his mind on WWE talent going from the main roster to NXT and back and forth. Now, over the last few weeks, we've seen Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado wrestle on both Raw and NXT, something that many people thought wouldn't be happening with the ongoing pandemic. The reported reason, if you guys remember, way back when, one of their biggest utter failures in the modern era, one of the most pathetic attempts to generate interest, Raw Underground, if you guys remember. That was scrapped due to higher-ups not wanting rosters to mix when the Lucha House Party made their appearance on NXT. This kind of changed the way their mentality has shifted. Now, the Performance Center and Full Sail University, they were COVID hotspots all through the middle of this pandemic. WWE clearly stopped that from happening on the main roster by saying, you know what, no more call-ups, no more intermingling with NXT. NXT's not allowed at the Survivor Series. NXT wasn't really even a part of anything on the main roster, except for Raw Underground, where some of the NXT extras, some of the Performance Center extras, those that are training at the Performance Center, were given roles around ringside to be the crowd that cheered on what was happening in the ring during the Raw Underground segments. Now, Dave Meltzer reported about this mindset change from the higher-ups in WWE, and he says this, and I quote, "An interesting note with the Lucha House Party on both NXT and Raw is that months back, Vince made the call that nobody from NXT comes to Raw or SmackDown for fear that there would be an outbreak on the WWE main roster coming from the Performance Center, and that it would spread to the major shows because there would be no interaction. They stopped all that. Now, of course, that ignores that these people live social lives, and many are based in the Tampa and Orlando area anyway. As Paul Levesque even noted publicly, some of the talent thinks that this thing is over, and it's not over. That's also why no NXT people were booked for Survivor Series, and they didn't use Raw or SmackDown people on NXT for so long to try and boost NXT ratings against AEW when they had gotten so far behind. But Vince evidently had a change of heart, and because of this, obviously there's no great business reason to put Lucha Underground on NXT if you really think about it." End quote. There really is no great business move when it comes to the Lucha House Party going to NXT. I don't know what the reason is. The only thing, and I don't want to stroke my own ego, I don't want to boast myself up here, but I know I mentioned something about either Dominic or Rey Mysterio going down to NXT and challenging Santos Escobar and Legado del Fantasma because of their entire mission statement. They want to change the game as far as Luchador goes. They want to take what everybody thinks of Luchador and remodel it in their own image. It made sense for someone like that who's a heel faction to go and say things like that, and Dominic, who is the son of the greatest luchador of all time, and Rey Mysterio, to go and challenge for the one title that his father made important, the Cruiserweight Championship. I know I said that. And now we're doing the Lucha House Party. And I know I mentioned them in the same kind of argument Why aren't the Lucha House Party down there doing that against Santos Escobar and Legado del Fantasma? They could turn into a serious act away from the comedy act that we see on Monday night and Friday night. I think that would be a great story. And when you see, and I watched NXT this week, it was a very good show. It was a very good show to start the year. Gran Metalik and Lince Dorado, just by appearance, feel different on NXT, but that is the negative effect that the main roster has on legitimately anybody. It makes sense for them to be down there because they have no ceiling on the main roster. Their ceiling was NXT. After that, they didn't give them any more on the main roster. They were jobbers. And Vince is not going to push luchadors not named Rey Mysterio on the main roster. Vince doesn't like someone in a mask. He's not going to push someone who's in a mask and doesn't cut a good promo or doesn't speak English as far as Gran Metalik goes. It's not going to happen. So that's why they moved them down to NXT. Instead of wasting them on the main roster, they moved them down to NXT because they have a story that pretty much writes itself. They're both luchadors. Both factions are luchadors. Now, I don't know what this means for the Royal Rumble. People are already talking about the Royal Rumble. Oh, with this new change from upper management in WWE, we could see NXT now appear in the Royal Rumble. Let me tell you something. NXT was in the Royal Rumble last year with Keith Lee and Matt Riddle being in the Royal Rumble. How far did that get them? We've seen a nice back and forth between Keith Lee and Brock Lesnar that I would love to see at this year's WrestleMania. I would book that match at WrestleMania. Matt Riddle didn't do much of anything. I believe he was eliminated by Baron Corbin in 90 seconds. And I don't know if that was a punishment or not, stemming from the whole Goldberg and Brock Lesnar fiasco that Matt Riddle had involved himself in. But I could see WWE using some NXT talent in the Royal Rumble, mainly on the women's side. Because we all know the women's rosters on Raw and SmackDown are absolutely dreadful. WWE is going to have to plug some holes into the women's Royal Rumble instead of bringing back legends. They might not want to bring back legends. They might bring back some legends, maybe include some NXT talents. See, the problem with the women's Royal Rumble is it goes back to all those complaints that I have about a general Royal Rumble in any time that I talk about the Royal Rumble. When you look at the women's Royal Rumble, there's a lot of fluff. There's really no solid choice to win the Royal Rumble. There's Charlotte, there's Bianca, maybe returning Ronda, maybe a returning Becky, Rhea Ripley. Outside that, you got 25 other people, Bayley, 24 other people in that Royal Rumble that are just going to be there to play supporting roles. So the Royal Rumble itself, if you don't include some major names from NXT to really give you a sense of, oh shit, Toni Storm is in here. I could see her winning the Royal Rumble. Now, we all know she's not, but she's a stable enough name where she could go to the end and make it unpredictable. Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez. I still call her Reina for whatever reason. Raquel Gonzalez can be in the Royal Rumble. Xia Li with this new gimmick, which looked fantastic on Wednesday night, I gotta say. If they load up the Women's Royal Rumble with NXT talent to give it that unpredictable feel, I could see them doing that. More so for the women than the men. They got more than enough on the men's roster to really load up that men's Royal Rumble. But I would like to see an Adam Cole in the Royal Rumble. I'd like to see a Damian Priest, who's rumored to be called up anyway, in the Royal Rumble. Maybe a Dexter Lumis. Guys like that. But we'll see what happens, man. WWE is absolutely, I'm predicting Rhea Ripley in the Royal Rumble anyway. I'm predicting Rhea to maybe win the Royal Rumble. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I could see them doing things like that. More so for the women than the men, though. But something has changed, and maybe Vince isn't taking COVID-19 to be too serious anymore. So we'll see what happens with their mindset moving forward going into the new year. WWE is reportedly bringing, or not bringing, they're reportedly interested, very interested in bringing Marty Scurll to the WWE. Now, WWE being very interested in anybody that's a free agent should be the surprise of nobody. But WWE is very interested in signing Marty Scurll, according to Dave Meltzer and his sources on Wrestling Observer Radio. Now, as noted, if you guys don't know, it's Ring of Honor. I don't know why you would care anyway. Marty Scurll and Ring of Honor mutually parted ways on Monday last week. After a year that Scurll signed a contract extension with the company, he was actually head of creative for Ring of Honor. According to Meltzer, WWE does not view the accusations against Scurll from the Speaking Out movement as a reason to not sign the 32-year-old British wrestler, especially since there were no criminal charges filed against him for the sexual assault allegations. Now, the Observer also noted that it would be more difficult for All Elite Wrestling to sign Scurll because they would get a lot of heat for hiring him. Meltzer added that WWE and New Japan Pro Wrestling are two companies that share a different outlook towards past allegations and are willing to give talents second chances. Scurll was supposed to be part of the original AEW core, according to Meltzer. However, he told Ring of Honor brass that he would stay with the company until December's Final Battle event before going to AEW. Scurll was expected to debut on Dynamite on December 18th, 2019, before he decided to sign the most lucrative contract in Ring of Honor history, also becoming the head of creative like I previously mentioned. At the time, Scurll reportedly got a lucrative offer from WWE as well. I mean, they throw lucrative offers to everybody. It doesn't really matter. It's also reported by Meltzer that Scurll might be forced to leave the United States now. This is a tricky situation because he owns a home in Florida. He was actually photographed with Ricochet and Casey at a New Year's party. So he was hanging out with WWE and AEW talent, celebrating New Year's. He owns a home in Florida. But if he's not working anywhere, he might not be able to stay in the United States. This is a very big issue for Marty Scurll. Owns a home in Florida, not working in the United States. He may be forced to leave the country. I don't know what's going to happen here. I really don't. Is New Japan a viable option for Marty Scurll? Absolutely. But it's all up to him if he wants to go back overseas. He might not even be able to travel overseas with restrictions in place. We don't know. He's grounded in the United States, so he may actually have to stay here and find work in the United States. AEW is not an option. I don't think AEW is going to go out there and sign Marty Scurll. Now, Marty Scurll was rumored to be in AEW. He was rumored to be a possible leader of the Dark Order before they decided on Brody Lee. Matt Hardy was also a possible leader of the Dark Order before they decided upon the Exalted One to be Brody Lee. So that was nixed. I don't know what he was supposed to do if that wasn't the role he was going to be given, but he was supposed to come in on December 18th regardless. Now, AEW is not an option, and I say that because AEW right now is looked at in the eyes of a lot of people in the industry as fans as well, and I'm including fans in this. They're looked at as far as a company in the industry as the good guys right now. They are legitimately doing everything right. Great shows on a consistent basis, well-written shows, logical for the most part. They got great in-ring action, and they did one of the greatest tribute shows of all time for Brody Lee. And everybody was riding high on that. Everybody. If you didn't watch AEW, everybody from AEW talent, WWE talent, any talent on any brand, in any promotion, went out there and praised what All Elite Wrestling did for Brody Lee. Somehow, his passing has made AEW bigger. And that's how great Brody Lee was. And that's how much influence he had. If they bring in Marty Scurll, after all the positive light that they have been given because of Brody's passing, I feel like AEW will somehow undo everything. Fans will turn on them because you know how fans are fickle. If AEW goes out and signs somebody that sexually assaulted a 16-year-old to their roster and you have to watch him on TV on a weekly basis, how many fans are they going to risk losing? How many of those fans that said so many good things about AEW now will turn their backs on AEW because of a decision to sign talent as if this person can't grow and become a better human being and learn from his mistakes? I'm not justifying him in any way. I think he's a fucking sleazeball, but that is exactly what would happen. Now, in WWE, they don't give a shit about that. They don't give a fuck what you think about them. They don't give a shit about how these shows suck. They don't give a shit who they portray on their show. I mean, Austin Theory was back within weeks of being called out in the speaking out movement. Velveteen Dream was in a main event against Adam Cole 2 weeks ago. They don't give a shit. So for them bringing in Scurll or bringing in Tessa for her racism background, they don't give a shit. They're going to do what they have to do to bolster their roster to make them stand out above everybody else and build for their future. None of these talents are really going to transcend TV and become bigger stars for it. They're not going to be presented as bigger stars. WWE's not going to have a bolstered ratings increase because they're signing Marty Scurll and Jay White and Tessa Blanchard to WWE contracts. They're not. For all we know, anybody that comes on in will somewhat seem like a big deal and then inevitably fail because of their ineptness to book and write a quality wrestling show. I'm not expecting WWE to pass on these individuals because of their past allegations. WWE is going to do what WWE has to do just to keep them away from going legitimately anywhere else. WWE doesn't want Scurll going to New Japan or Impact or AEW. WWE doesn't want Tessa going to New Japan or whatever, Stardom. She wants to go back to Japan, Impact, even though she won't because she left there on bad terms. AEW, where's she going? Where's she going? She's going right to NXT. You think them boasting about their women's division and hyping up the best women's division in the history of NXT and then giving them a dusty women's tag team classic, you don't think that she's going to NXT? Of course she is. She's absolutely going to NXT. Even though I know there is some push in AEW to sign Tessa Blanchard. What good she would do for that division when they don't have anything in that division but Sheeta anyway is a little weird to me. If you haven't shown that you want to make women's wrestling a top attraction on your show after all these weeks, after all these months, then what good is bringing in Tessa Blanchard when you'll be right back to where you are now with Sheeta? You've done nothing to build the division around Sheeta. What are you going to do? Bring in Tessa after she beat Sheeta for the title? Who is there for Tessa to beat? Nobody. Unless there really is a working agreement with Impact, then we're right back in the same boat with her wrestling all the people that she beat when she was there. WWE's very interesting. Scurll, Tessa. It's either WWE for Tessa or Stardom, which, if I had the choice here, WWE. For WWE with Scurll, it's either WWE or New Japan. I could see him going to Impact as well. If they want him, if they got the money for him, I don't see why they wouldn't. I don't know. It's a hot button topic right now with Marty Scurll. It really is. Let me know what you guys think about that. But Marty, he's not going right to the main roster. Everybody that I'm mentioning here, right to NXT. That's where they need them. That's where WWE is going to put their money and bring these people in and place them there. Why? Nobody knows who Marty Scurll is. The general populace don't know who Marty Scurll is. The general populace doesn't know who Tessa Blanchard is. Same thing with Jay White. Nobody knows who the fuck Jay White is. You may know Jay White because you're a fucking geek. But the normal person out there watching this doesn't know who Jay White is. Just somebody with a good-looking beard. Speaking of Jay White, WWE is making a huge play for Jay White after his possible New Japan exit. Now, I say possible exit because he's hinted that he's done. Now, after losing to Kota Ibushi on night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom 15 this week, Jay White cut a great promo where he said that he was done. He was then pinned by Tomohiro Ishii the following day at New Year's Dash. Well, it seems that this may be a way to write the former IWGP Heavyweight Champion out of New Japan, as Jay White's contract is reportedly up this month, and it's unclear whether or not he's going to resign. Now, the Super J Cast, which is the New Japan Pro Wrestling podcast of the Voices of Wrestling Network, is reporting that Jay White's deal with New Japan Pro Wrestling is up this month, and WWE is making a big play to sign Jay White. They say, and I quote, "Several sources have indicated that there is some doubt whether Jay White will extend his New Japan Pro Wrestling contract, rumored to be up at the end of the month. WWE are believed to be making a strong play for Jay White, and it's 50-50 on whether he stays or whether he goes. As the report states, it's currently unclear whether or not Jay White is going to be joining WWE or signing another deal in New Japan Pro Wrestling," end quote. Listen, I see people already claiming that Jay White should show up in the Royal Rumble. I see people claiming that Jay White should come to the WWE. Now, I don't want to sit here and tell anybody what they need to do. It's none of my business. You want to go to WWE, go get that payday. You want to go to WWE because it's a bucket list thing to do while you're in the industry, by all means, go and do it. Okay? They know better than we do. We don't know anything. We're just here to talk because we're fans of the industry. I would hope that you look at everybody that has wrestled under the New Japan banner, that has wrestled in the indies like you did, that has gone to WWE and have gone nowhere. And I'm talking about a Ricochet, a Tommy End, Aleister Black. I'm talking about the guys in NXT that get called up and WWE doesn't look at them as anything. They take and then they don't do anything with them. There's so many people that I'm missing that it's not even funny. They fucked up Finn Balor, who was a staple in Japan, and the only thing that saved his WWE run is by Triple H bringing him back to NXT and giving him the NXT title. Adam Cole, everybody is deathly afraid of. Bobby Fish ain't going nowhere. If he gets called up to the main roster, burial. We got Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong. These are men that we all love and love to watch wrestle. I mean, Adam Cole is probably one of the best wrestlers on the planet. Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, two of the best wrestlers on the planet. WWE has this amount of talent, and if any of those guys went to the main roster, where would they be? Look at what has been done to Ricochet. Look at what they've done to Aleister Black. I mean, we should be looking at Aleister Black challenging Drew McIntyre for the WWE title, and I mean that. I mean that from the bottom of my soul. Aleister Black should be in contention right now for the WWE title if he was built up properly on a consistent basis, weekly television. But we're not. He's in a fucking dungeon somewhere, tied up because his wife committed a sin by opening up an OnlyFans account after she was told to close down her Twitch account. So they're taking it out on the husband, which in this case is Aleister Black. I see people, listen, I understand fans are big. They're very high on Jay White. Now, I find Jay White to be the Baron Corbin of New Japan Pro Wrestling. I find him to be utterly boring. Does he got a great look? Absolutely. Does he look the part? Absolutely. But I don't know why you would want him in WWE when we all know that this guy is probably going to be a sous chef for Titus Catering in 6 months, probably less. We all know that this guy's probably going to be standing next to Elias as he's got Jackson Riker and his other roadie standing behind him. Because that's exactly what he looks like. That's exactly what I feel they would do with a Jay White. Who on WWE main roster in management knows who a fucking Jay White is? Give me a break. Jay White coming into the Royal Rumble. What type of impact is Jay White going to make in the Royal Rumble? What type of impact is Jay White going to make in the WWE? And then people want to argue with me, oh, well, AJ Styles got that treatment. Name me someone besides AJ Styles that got that treatment. By coming into the WWE, going into the Royal Rumble, which I thought was not the right way to go about it, but they did it anyway. Because even at that point, I didn't think people here knew totally who AJ Styles was, breaks out, gets a Mania match, then before you know it's feuding for the WWE title against Roman Reigns. And he's got Gallows and Anderson with him. But that's when the Bullet Club was big. And WWE wanted to ride the high on Bullet Club. Hey, we got our own Bullet Club here, look! They did nothing with it. AJ is a once-in-a-lifetime athlete. How many people have chimed in and said AJ is the modern-day Shawn Michaels? Jay White is not the modern-day Shawn Michaels, and Jay White is not even in the same sentence as an AJ Styles, so shut your fucking mouth. That comparison is an absolutely ridiculous statement to make. Jay White is not AJ Styles. Now, for all we know, Jay White wants a big payday. For all we know, Jay White wants to leave Japan. For all we know, Jay White wants to go to WWE and check it off his bucket list. But Jay White coming to the WWE, let me tell you something, people. You may think that Jay White has name value now. But when Jay White gets to the WWE, how many people before Jay White have been fucked by WWE? Are you serious? As long as Bruce and Vince are in charge, Jay White's ceiling extends no further than NXT. That's it. Done. Where do I think Jay White's going? I think Jay White, if he does come to WWE, is going right to NXT. Because when Jay White comes to the States, he ain't going to the main roster. He's going where that audience knows who he is. That audience is more keen on watching an NXT than they are the main roster. You're not going to get a New Japan faithful watching Jay White one week, go to the WWE the next week, and watch main roster because Jay White's fucking there. They're more apt to watch NXT. That's where I think he's going. He fits with that audience more. And being that there seems to be talk about a New Japan partnership with AEW and Impact, someone has a small partnership with New Japan. You know WWE wants to throw Jay White on Wednesday night to thwart that, to stop that by any means. It's exactly why they bring in Scurll. Oh, look, we got one of the boys. That'll give Triple H the opportunity to tout, hey, look, we got one of the elite right here. Well, what happened? What happened? Then you bring in Tessa. NXT is going to be rebuilt in 2021. Hopefully they could get that energy back. I would not be opposed to this, but Jay White going to the main roster, folks, please, drop the act. Stop being a fucking idiot. He ain't going anywhere on the main roster. I do think he goes to NXT if there is a solid proof that this rumor is legit. NXT is where Jay White goes. Moving on here, man. Let me take a sip of my liquid death. Delish. I need to hydrate myself because now we're going to get into the main topic of discussion here, and that is Bill Goldberg. My good old buddy Bill. Folks, the mantra for everybody listening to the podcast this year is fuck Bill Goldberg. That's the catchphrase that we're using this season. Fuck Bill Goldberg. Goldberg showed up on Monday night, and he stared down Drew McIntyre and pointed at the WWE title, shoved Drew McIntyre down as Raw abruptly cut off the air. WWE booked Drew McIntyre versus Bill Goldberg at the upcoming Royal Rumble event during their closing segment of Monday's Raw Legends Night. Now, it turns out that the decision for this match was made this past Saturday. So Legends Night happened on Monday, and we had one whole day, and then Raw. So that decision was made on Saturday before Legends Night on Monday. Just to give you an idea of where WWE is with their constantly changing plans, by the way. Now, Dave Meltzer is reporting about this. He mentioned that this is the main event of the Royal Rumble. The reason for this match and the reason why it's being booked comes down to WWE realizing that they had nobody ready to challenge McIntyre for the title at this show. Thus, they felt Goldberg was the best choice. Now, I want to stop there before we get on into the report. They chose Bill Goldberg versus Drew McIntyre because nobody else was ready for Drew McIntyre. Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? Do we have to be punished for your garbage fucking booking? Because that's exactly the way it comes off. Who asked for this? And why isn't there anybody on a 3-hour fucking show that you got Drew McIntyre to be ready for? Sheamus could be ready. I know WWE doesn't, meddle in long-term booking. Maybe they're saving it for WrestleMania. I have no fucking idea. Or maybe it's scrapped altogether. But WWE could have talent for Drew McIntyre. They just want to waste it on everything that they have coming up. TLC, major matches on Raw because the ratings are down, 50-50 booking where nobody looks good, nobody feels like a big deal, nobody feels like a title contender. They win one week and they lose the next. Or they lose 3 weeks in a row and then they win one big match and then WWE thinks that they're going to be over in the eyes of the fans watching at home. Give me a break. Whose fault is this? It's WWE's fault. It's Bruce's fault. He knows nothing. It's Vince's fault. You gave Drew McIntyre a title run out of WrestleMania, yet him lose the title to Randy Orton, who held the title for 2 weeks, just so that you could get McIntyre and Reigns at Survivor Series. McIntyre beat Orton for the title for a second time, goes to lose to Roman Reigns. What did that accomplish? Randy Orton being WWE champion maybe opened up a little bit more for things to feel new on this show, and you didn't even explore it because of your constantly changing ideas and agendas. You look at that Monday Night Raw roster. I don't know why Dijakovic is hiding behind a fucking mask. I don't know why Ali is subjugated to leading a fucking jobber group that obviously is going nowhere. I don't know why you buried Ricochet the way that you did. This guy should be a fucking big deal to everybody. Keith Lee, buried. Matt Riddle is a comedy geek. Sheamus is legit. But WWE is never going to give Sheamus another run at the title. He's a good in-there match for Drew McIntyre just to get him a pay-per-view outing. That's about it. AJ Styles? You wasted AJ Styles on TLC. That should be his WrestleMania opponent if you're looking at anybody on the active roster. Now you're stuck giving him Bill Goldberg. So what does that mean to me? What does that say to you? Oh, Meltzer's almost predicting the fucking future. There's nobody else for Drew McIntyre. So what are you saying, Dave? Is this the end of the line? Does Drew McIntyre's second reign end here? Because what you're telling me is there's nobody built up. If Goldberg is getting the opportunity, because there's nobody else on the roster, what do you think that means? There's nobody now for Drew, and after Goldberg, there's going to be nobody. Unless you give me an Adam Cole, which I would not be opposed to. That's the position he deserves to be in. But we know that's not going to happen. WWE having NXT talent win the Royal Rumble? Oh my God, man. What planet am I living on? There's nobody for Drew now. Before this Legends Night debacle. And after the Goldberg match, who's there going to be? Nobody. You're right back in the same boat that you were in before Goldberg showed up on Monday night. So what does that mean? Is Goldberg going to win the fucking title? Sounds like it to me. Now, Meltzer mentioned also Goldberg previously called out Roman Reigns for a match at WrestleMania 37, which I think we all know. He was on the bump. He was interviewed by various people. I want Roman. I'm not done with Roman. And that was reportedly the direction the company was heading towards. Reportedly the direction the company was heading towards. Was is the key word there. Was or is? Sounds like it could be is the direction that the company is heading in. Now with Goldberg challenging McIntyre, there's no word yet on whether this match will still take place at WrestleMania 37. It should be noted, the Reigns and Goldberg match, by the way. It should be noted that Goldberg is required to work 2 matches per year for the next 2 years, this year and next year. So we got 4 matches that we got to see this aging fucking fossil compete in. So this was decided on Saturday. Because if you're wondering, says Meltzer, why did Bill do all this build-up for Roman Reigns if he's going to wrestle McIntyre? And it's like, there is your answer. It wasn't a swerve. It wasn't to throw people off. It was because they have nobody ready for anything. Now, what happens at the Royal Rumble? What happens with Drew McIntyre and Bill Goldberg at the Royal Rumble and going into WrestleMania 37? So, according to a report from Sportskeeda, take it with a grain of salt. They're not really the most reputable source in the community, but they have said that Vince McMahon and the plan to use Goldberg stems from McMahon wanting to use Goldberg to propel Drew McIntyre to the stratosphere of superstars, is what they said in their report. The plan is reportedly for McIntyre to retain his title at the Royal Rumble. Sportskeeda is also reporting that McIntyre is penciled in for a match with Universal Champion Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 37. So let me get this straight. Sportskeeda is reporting that Vince McMahon is going to use Goldberg at the Royal Rumble to, quote-unquote, propel Drew McIntyre to the stratosphere of superstars. Will somebody please explain to me how beating Bill Goldberg is going to accomplish that when Drew McIntyre defeated Brock Lesnar at the WrestleMania show at the empty gymnasium back in April of 2020? And then, I don't know if you guys have forgotten or not, I didn't. WWE has not only him beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania last year, they have him beat Big Show in a WrestleMania match immediately following that Brock Lesnar match. And that was done to propel him to the new throne that he sits atop at WWE. But you want to convince me that the reason why this match is happening because WWE and Vince McMahon want to use Goldberg to propel Drew to the stratosphere of superstars. Why do you need Bill Goldberg to do that? That's almost as if you forgot what happened last year, and it's almost as if you're telling me that you've done a shit job at building him up during the year in which you should have already been in the process of doing. We wouldn't need Goldberg if that was the case. Right? Propel Drew to the stratosphere of superstars. Goldberg is 50 years old. He offers nothing to the show. No name value whatsoever. He does more harm than good. He gets more negative reaction than positive reaction. But Drew McIntyre has now been placed in this situation. And he's going to be the brunt of all the negativity, which he doesn't deserve because of Bill Goldberg. Meltzer is also reporting that WWE only decided to run Goldberg and McIntyre as of Saturday. Goldberg and Daniel Bryan are the frontrunners to face Reigns at WrestleMania. That's what I think. Not Drew McIntyre. What good would that do Drew McIntyre? What? I don't really understand why Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns, says Sportskeeda, is penciled in Pencil could be easily erased. It's fucking pencil. What I think is going to have happen here, or what I think WWE will have happen here, one of a couple of things here. Goldberg loses. Drew McIntyre retains. Sheamus wins the Elimination Chamber. We get Drew and Sheamus. After that, I don't know what the fuck happens. Maybe WWE has a shakeup to give Drew some opponents. Roman has nobody outside Daniel Bryan on SmackDown. Maybe a shakeup is imminent. We don't fucking know. Maybe that's where they go. We get McIntyre, Sheamus, Bryan, Reigns at WrestleMania. That is what I think the majority of fans want to see. That's the normal route. The logical route that doesn't include fucking Goldberg in this situation. Goldberg can win the title. I pray to God not. Goldberg could win the title. Drew McIntyre would then move on to WrestleMania and wrestle Sheamus. Maybe WWE realizes that Drew McIntyre and Sheamus doesn't necessarily need the WWE Championship. Maybe they do that and pit friend versus ex-friend at WrestleMania. I don't know. Goldberg wins the WWE title. Maybe Bray Wyatt enters the elimination shot. This is a stretch. Maybe Bray Wyatt coming back as this new fiendish character that he's got going on. Whatever the fuck that may be. Goldberg wins the title. Bray Wyatt goes into the Elimination Chamber, wins the chamber, seeks revenge against Bill Goldberg, and wins the WWE title at WrestleMania, avenging his loss last February against Bill Goldberg. That is a possibility. Do I see it happening? Probably not. Probably not. I think we are well past the phase of Bray Wyatt getting a fucking WWE title. They don't know how to book him without a title. You want me to sit there and watch a third title reign explode in fucking flames because you don't know how to book this guy on television? That could be a situation. Drew McIntyre could retain the title against Bill Goldberg. Goldberg would then find his way into the Royal Rumble. It's happened before. Becky's done it. Roman Reigns has done it. It's not out of the realm of possibility here. Goldberg loses, enters the Royal Rumble, eliminates Daniel Bryan. We got 2014 all over again, but without fans. It's going to be more of an internet backlash than a real-life backlash with 30,000 fucking people there. Goldberg enters the Royal Rumble, goes on to WrestleMania to challenge Roman Reigns. We get that match happening anyway. And Roman beats Bill Goldberg the way it was going to be done anyway last year. Goldberg could win the title from Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre could go into the Royal Rumble and win the Royal Rumble. He could go on to WrestleMania and challenge Roman Reigns and win the WWE Universal title through that entry into the WrestleMania main event, giving us the penciled-in main event of Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns. Goldberg would be the WWE champion, Bray would win the Elimination Chamber, and then Bray would avenge his loss from Super Showdown in February. Where does that leave Daniel Bryan? I have no fucking idea. I don't know. That is the one scenario I do not want to happen. Now, if Drew McIntyre is the WWE champion, I just mentioned that last scenario with Bill Goldberg, right? He could win the WWE championship, go to WrestleMania, challenge Roman Reigns anyway, and it could be a unification match of sorts. I don't know if it would be a unification match where they eliminate the Universal title. I don't see them doing that. Goldberg could win the WWE championship from Drew McIntyre. He could go on to wrestle Roman Reigns in a champion versus champion match. Roman Reigns could win the WWE title, hold both the WWE and the Universal title, show up on Monday Night Raw, and WWE could use Roman Reigns as a way to catapult the ratings on Monday night, being that Roman is one of the only reasons on SmackDown, besides Sasha Banks, that anybody's watching that fucking pile of garbage. Maybe they use Reigns as a double champion so he shows up on both shows and really build his stock up in the company as a double champion, and then they bring in The Rock, and maybe that would entice The Rock to come back even more. That would give Roman a wider array of opponents. He would look dominant all year, and you build him up to have that big showdown with The Rock as double champion. It's a possibility. It's a possibility. Daniel Bryan can win the Royal Rumble. He would go on to WrestleMania, challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal title. Sheamus is another option to win the Royal Rumble. He could win the Royal Rumble. We don't know which way they're going to go. Sheamus can win the Royal Rumble. Bryan can win the Elimination Chamber. Vice versa. These are all the possible scenarios. These are all the possible scenarios that I've been conjuring up while you're at work. Only one sounds right. And that is Daniel Bryan winning the Royal Rumble. Bill Goldberg, if he is to be back, I don't know what happened to Lars Sullivan. I really don't. Did he have another anxiety attack, another panic attack? Did they release him? The big bad bully, Lars Sullivan. What happened to him? I don't know why Goldberg isn't back putting over guys like that. 2 ex-football players. Why aren't we getting something like that? Why isn't Goldberg back to put over new talent? Why is he back and automatically getting a title shot? Fuck winning a Royal Rumble. Fuck going through the day-to-day, week-to-week, arduous WWE schedule. Now just come back. If you're Bill Goldberg, you get an automatic title shot. Somebody like an Ali or a Ricochet or a Black or a Styles or fucking anybody on this roster never getting an opportunity to get one. They got to sit back and watch Bill sit at home in his garage for 50 fucking weeks a year, come back for one, and get a title shot. How do you think the morale backstage is with Goldberg coming on in? You think they're happy about another old-time dinosaur stealing a spot from somebody on the active roster? I know for a fucking fact that they won't say it, but they're feeling it. Give me a break. Goldberg should not be back to do anything in WWE but put talent over, okay? This is fucking ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, for all the fucking geeks out there that want to chime in, oh, well, his video got 2 million views on YouTube. How many thumbs down were on the video? I'd like somebody to give me that statistic. 2 million views with 1.5 million of them being negative. Watching how stupid WWE is writing their shows. 2 million negative reactions. That's what that is. It's not curiosity. It's fucking, I don't believe they're doing this shit again. Let me see how fucking ridiculous they are and the fact that they refuse to change. Then you got the other group of people. Oh, but JD only complains when Goldberg shows up. He didn't say nothing negative about Sting on AEW. I'm sorry. When you can find out the segment on Dynamite and show me the segment on Dynamite where Sting comes in and points at the AEW World Heavyweight Championship and starts to bury Kenny Omega on television, I'd love for you to fucking contact me when you find that footage. Here's a fucking hint. It doesn't exist. Okay? And your WWE 2K20 fucking shit gameplay doesn't count. Sting and Goldberg have absolutely no correlation with each other. None. Sting is there to put over Darby Allin. Sting is there to be a mentor to Darby Allin. Sting is there to bring notoriety to AEW. Just by being a figure on the show. Then you got the people who still complain to this day that, oh, JD wants to complain about Goldberg, but he doesn't have any heart to complain about Chris Jericho winning the AEW title because he's an AEW mark. He's on Khan's payroll. If I have to sit here and go over how these are vastly different scenarios, I mean, you may be the dumbest fuck that ever existed in this social media landscape. Jericho, A, can wrestle. Jericho can wrestle, by the way, longer than 90 seconds. Jericho was given the world championship because he's Chris fucking Jericho. On TNT, he was a staple on that channel. He's a legend. We're the greatest that has ever done it. And somebody that is Chris Jericho with the mentality and the knowledge and the name recognition in this industry to give to a brand new startup promotion. While Jericho was at the top, he got everybody over. When Jericho lost the title, he was still putting everybody over. Making stars is what Jericho was brought in to do. Making that title important. So that when it was passed on to somebody else, it had that same value. It went from Jericho to Moxley, from Moxley to Omega. There's been 3 world champions. 3 world champions in AEW. How many world champions has WWE switched and flipped back and forth in the last 3 years? Give me a break. WWE would flip a world title because Vince wants to push a certain agenda at a garbage Survivor Series just so that he gets a hard-on in his $9,000 fucking Armani suit. It's not the same. When Jericho dropped the title to Moxley, it had the same prestige. When Moxley dropped the title to Omega, it had the same prestige. Omega is going to make it even more prestigious with what they got planned now. So please tell me how it is the same. He put over MJF. He put over Darby. He put over fucking Jungle Boy. He put over Orange Cassidy, Santana and Ortiz, Wardlow. How many more am I missing? No, but Jericho and Goldberg, you want to complain that it's the same thing. I'm an AEW shield, but JD doesn't complain about Jericho or Sting, but he complains about Goldberg. You are a blithering fucking idiot. Seriously. It does not, in any way, shape, or form, resemble the same thing. I don't believe we have to talk about this in 2021. How don't you realize that Goldberg being back on television is a detriment to the fucking product? It does no good. Out of all the scenarios that I gave you, those are legitimately every possible one of those is going to happen. Which one of those is going to happen? I don't know. Goldberg winning the world title. Listen, I said this on Friday. Goldberg beating Drew McIntyre because WWE thinks that Goldberg is some ratings draw in 2021. Him beating McIntyre is the odds-on favorite scenario to happen. Oh, but JD, how could you say that? They're very high on Drew McIntyre. Yes, so was The Fiend. WWE was very high on Bray Wyatt. What happened? What happened? You think Goldberg beating The Fiend was bad? Wait till he beats Drew McIntyre. It's not going to be as bad, but it's going to be bad. He didn't say nothing then. What makes you think he's going to say something now? And McIntyre has been built better 10 times over than Bray Wyatt. He didn't say anything then. Now he's going to say something? WWE had every right to change the fucking decision. They didn't. Goldberg didn't say anything. WWE didn't give a fuck about Bray Wyatt. But now all of a sudden they're going to care about Drew McIntyre when they have nobody else for Drew. Poor Drew has nobody else on Monday night. He doesn't have anybody now. He won't have anybody after he beats Goldberg. Sounds like Goldberg's going to win the fucking WWE title to me. Take it to Mania. Challenge Roman because at that point he's an equal to Roman. Roman right now is on a godlike fucking level. You put Goldberg in there, he's going to look minuscule. So how could Roman and Goldberg get this match? Or let me rephrase, how could Roman sit by as Goldberg praises Roman all these weeks and wants this match, begging Vince McMahon for this match? He ain't going to look like an equal going on SmackDown. He ain't going to look like no equal. Nobody's an equal to Roman Reigns. Nobody. So with Goldberg winning that title, it presents him as an equal, gives him the opportunity to say, you know what? I got your number. We didn't do it last year. You're the champion. You got your little belt over there. Right? I never lost that title. Now I got another one on my own. Let's do this now. Unification match of sorts. Roman shows up on both shows, gives him a wide array of opponents to feed him. Could challenge anybody on Raw, anybody on SmackDown. He's going to be the WWE Universal Champion, WWE Champion. Build him up for that big money match with Dwayne. That's the way I see it happening. I want Bryan to win the Royal Rumble just because I want this story to have a conclusion. I don't want Bryan to win the WWE title. I just want that story told. Because that's what WrestleMania is about. WrestleMania should be about story. WrestleMania should be about larger-than-life fucking stories. Investing in those stories and characters. Not Bill Goldberg coming back because he's done fixing up his fucking Corvette. I'm bored now. Let me see what WWE's got. Title match? Yeah, I'll take it. Folks, let me know, before I cut away to a break here, let me know what you think the possible scenario is. Honestly. Do any of those sound like it should happen? Do any of those sound like it will happen? And if you think one of those should happen, you let me know. Clearly, you know where my allegiance lies here. Bryan and Reigns at WrestleMania. But I want you guys to think about this. Is WWE going to travel to Saudi Arabia in the unknown that is 2021? Probably not. The majority of the roster will probably not okay a flight to Saudi Arabia in a foreign country with a pandemic happening worldwide. So what does this mean? We get Goldberg twice this year. Twice. And nothing will happen in Saudi Arabia. And when do you think those matches will happen? Do you think that WWE is going to have Goldberg wrestle at Rumble and not at Mania? He's absolutely back for Rumble and Mania. I want you to think. Who does WWE have on this roster that you could put into a match with Goldberg one-on-one and actually have it make sense? Who do you want to see Goldberg wrestle on this active roster? Nobody. Do you think WWE is going to put Bill Goldberg in a one-on-one match? To do what? To do what? If Goldberg is wrestling at WrestleMania, he has nobody. They've pretty much outlined what he wants. Drew, Orton, or Roman Reigns. Orton is going to be tied up with Edge. No question. So what does that leave? McIntyre, he'll beat. The only one left is Roman. If Drew drops the title to Goldberg, who else does Goldberg have but Roman? Nobody else. That's the only thing that makes sense. If he doesn't win the championship, who else is there for Goldberg? Nobody. So by process of elimination, Goldberg has only one way into WrestleMania, and that's the WWE Championship and Roman Reigns. I pray for everybody's souls on January 31st. Man, let me tell you something. I'm telling you, ranting about Bill Goldberg works up a sweat like you wouldn't believe. I legitimately had to step away from the microphone, go downstairs and grab myself a cold beverage because I was sweating my balls off. Just ranting about good old Bill. Him and Bruce are my good pals. Bruce and Bill. Anyway, I want to thank Dr. Squatch for sponsoring the show today, man. DrSquatch.com, right here on episode 359 of OTS. As you guys see there, they got shampoos, they got conditioners, they got deodorant, they got toothpaste, they got cologne, and they got what they're known for. They're bars of soap, man. Gold moss, pine tar, spearmint, basil, alpine, sage, cedar citrus, bay rum, and my personal favorite, the cold brew cleanse. I don't know whether to bathe in it or eat it. That's how great it is, man. DrSquatch.com. They're also offering subscription services. You guys can sign up and get it delivered right to your front door in a recurring method. You could actually save 15% by signing up for a subscription service and use our code SCRIPT to save even more percent on top of that 15%. Use the code SCRIPT to save 20% off. Don't ever tell anybody JD never did anything for you. Seriously. DrSquatch.com. I want to thank them for supporting OTS right here on episode 359. Legitimate cold beverage here, man. Got my Troegs beer koozie. Unreal. Thanks, Bill. Anyway, moving on. Let's get into the weekly SmackDown, Raw, and AEW ratings report. SmackDown ratings, after overachieving on Christmas Day, back to normal. Good job there, Bruce. Good job. SmackDown ratings are back to normal after Christmas Day. Final numbers are in. The show averaged 2.013 million viewers. SmackDown was down 39%, Bruce. What happened? In viewership from the previous week, but the Christmas Day edition show was bolstered by a massive lead-in from the NFL. On a night where all other stations aired repeated programming, poor Bruce. And it has nothing to do with the holiday as to why they were down, by the way. SmackDown drew the lowest viewership on the networks, with nothing else falling below a 2.1. I guess everybody was too busy watching The Honeymooners. SmackDown did face massive competition in the form of the college football playoff semifinal game between Ohio State and Clemson on ESPN. The game averaged 18.5 million viewers, directly opposite of SmackDown. SmackDown drew a 0.53 rating in the 18-49 demo, well above anything else on network television. The number was down 44.8% from the previous week's Christmas Day episode. What happened on SmackDown, you might ask? Bayley and Carmella defeated Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair when Sasha Banks was pinned by Carmella on television as SmackDown Women's Champion. So I'm assuming we're getting Carmella and Sasha Banks in what is shaping up to be a night of Royal Rumble rematches. So there you go. WWE doesn't have anybody else lined up for Sasha Banks to kind of go through before she gets to WrestleMania. So we're going to do the rematch with Carmella. Not that I have an overwhelming issue with that, because Carmella has grown on me ever so lightly in recent weeks. But I'm not really interested in another match, because knowing WWE, they'll flip the switch and give Carmella the championship while Sasha does nothing going into WrestleMania. I would not put it past these people, and we don't want to see that. I thought Bianca teaming with Sasha was an indication as to where the direction was going. I thought maybe Bianca and Sasha was the title match at Royal Rumble, but I'm glad somebody in that company in creative prevailed and said, you know what? I don't think we should rush Bianca to Sasha. But she still lost on television anyway and got pinned as Carmella pins the champion. Big E defeated Baron Corbin by disqualification in a 3-minute match with interference from Sami Zayn. And then we got Big E being backed up by Apollo Crews. And this led to a tag team match where they defeated Sami Zayn and Baron Corbin after Corbin walked out on Zayn. Not really all that interesting, but typical Bruce writing. Kevin Owens defeated Jey Uso, and then he was promptly thrown off the Thunderdome by Roman Reigns, which was great. And Daniel Bryan and Otis defeated Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura. Doesn't look like a potential Royal Rumble winner to me. Daniel Bryan teaming with Otis, doing the Macarena and thrusting his hips into Otis's big load from behind. You don't know what I'm talking about? Go and watch it. I don't care to reiterate myself. Major news coming out of SmackDown. I don't know what the fuck's going on with this news story, but it is utterly ridiculous how things work in this company. I mentioned it briefly on the live stream last night. I didn't really want to dive too much into it, but I want to talk about it here. There was an NXT wrestler that was set to join the Roman Reigns Kevin Owens storyline on SmackDown, but it was immediately nixed. Immediately put to bed. They're not doing it anymore. Now, this superstar in question is Damian Priest. He was scheduled for a call-up to SmackDown last Friday on the New Year's Day show. Priest was reportedly being called up for a main event segment with Kevin Owens, Jey Uso, and Roman Reigns. Why? I don't know. In an update, Meltzer reported on the Wrestling Observer Radio that Priest was scheduled to be called up to work with Owens, Reigns, and Uso on SmackDown, but the angle was axed at the last minute. During Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer explained that there is an arrangement between the main roster and NXT. He said, by the way, let me stop there. What arrangement is this? Pull up NXT talent and promptly kill their career? Bruce? Is that the arrangement? That's what it seems like to me over the last couple of years. Whatever this arrangement is, there's an arrangement between the main roster and NXT. He said the call-up is supposed to get months of planning. I remember Triple H saying that like it was yesterday. Oh, we don't want to call anybody up unless they have a plan on the main roster. How many people in last year alone got called up with no plan at all? 13, 14, maybe 15? Yes, because they called Bianca Belair up with a fucking plan, right? The only one that they had plans for were Rhea Ripley. And the plan for Rhea Ripley was to be fed to Charlotte Flair. That went off like they planned it. Without a fucking glitch in the system. See what I did there? Glitch in the system. Charlotte's an android. Well, whatever. Whatever, man. Months of planning. Oh, but Damian Priest, he was planned to be called up on Friday with no plan. This is a Damian Priest, by the way, who wrestled Karrion Kross on Wednesday's NXT. They want to call him up in the middle of a big match on Wednesday night. Typical Bruce. Meltzer says this was not a long planned out thing before it was supposed to be. Nobody moves from NXT to the main roster unless it's planned for months in advance. Blah, 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 blah. That's verbatim what he did and what he said. This was actually something that was planned like Thursday before Friday, and then they decided not to do it. End quote. Now, the story is that someone decided that they needed new babyface superstars on the blue brand, and when asked who from NXT could fill that role, Damian Priest was brought up and decided on for this call up to SmackDown. Daniel Bryan, we reported last night on the live stream, is the one responsible for wanting more baby faces to be called up from NXT to SmackDown because he thought it would help bolster and freshen the brand. Now, Damian Priest is due for a call-up anyway, but that doesn't mean call him up within a day and have no plan for him. That doesn't mean call him up when he has yet to have his send-off match by putting over Karrion Kross on NXT Wednesday night. Damian Priest, listen, I get that he's got nothing else left to do in NXT. I get that he's I don't want to say a top-level guy, but Damian Priest has the ability to be everything WWE wants him to be. And I'll get into why I don't have any hope for Damian Priest whatsoever. Because he's even more high-flying than Keith Lee was. And he got changed immensely. Now, Daniel Bryan thought that babyfaces were needed on SmackDown to freshen the brand. Creatively, reportedly, came up with the storyline where Priest was supposed to come to SmackDown as Owens' best friend to assist him in the feud with Reigns and Uso. They were actually booked to work a tag team main event on SmackDown last week. It was supposed to be Owens and Priest versus Reigns and Uso in the main event of SmackDown. Priest was at SmackDown and ready to go, says sources. But Owens spoke up and essentially said, listen, it makes no sense for Priest to be my best friend. Owens reportedly mentioned how they have nothing in common and how they could still do the angle, but there wasn't much logic in Priest being introduced as his best friend. I don't know who he said that to. I don't know if it was Bryan, who was reported, like I said, who said he needed, or wanted, I should say, baby faces on SmackDown to freshen up the brand. I don't know if that came from Bryan, and Owens spoke up to Bryan, or Owens spoke up to Bruce, or Owens spoke up to Vince, or Michael Hayes, or whoever was back there in that moment when they were discussing this situation. Owens says they could still do the angle, but it doesn't make much sense in Priest being introduced as his best friend. Then, Roman Reigns reportedly spoke up and agreed with Owens, and since it was somebody like Reigns who came in and stepped up and said, listen, I agree with Owens here, it doesn't make sense with somebody like Reigns speaking up and adding on top of what Owens already said, being that it came from Reigns, his pull in the back is major, And then at that point, it was nixed. So this is what I don't understand. Why did it take Roman Reigns to speak up about it when Kevin Owens was right in the first place? This goes to show you the working structure backstage in WWE and how fucked up it is. Owens wasn't right. Owens wasn't right in what he said. It took Reigns to say so. So if Owens didn't say anything, maybe we wouldn't have gotten all of this and everybody would have kept quiet. Maybe Reigns said something because maybe Reigns said something because Owens said something and Reigns wouldn't have said anything because he wanted to just respect everybody involved. I don't know. Maybe Reigns seen that Owens said something and he wanted to back up his guy. And that's the only reason why he said something. If Owens didn't say anything, I wonder if this would have went as they planned it. No sense, no logic. But I'm not surprised. This is fucking Bruce Pritchard. So it doesn't make sense for Priest to come in and be portrayed as Kevin Owens' best friend. There's no word yet on how Paul Heyman felt about this storyline, but Reigns ended up getting it axed. Priest lost to Karrion Kross on Wednesday in what I thought was a great opening match on NXT special New Year's Evil. And he's said to be lost right now on NXT television because he's still booked for a spot on the main roster. But nothing has been confirmed. It was noted on the Wrestling Observer Live, Wrestling Observer Radio, that as of Wednesday, Priest was scheduled to be on Raw and not on SmackDown later this month, but everything related to his call-up is now in the air and nothing is confirmed. Priest was ready to be called up last Friday, but the angle was booked just the day before on Thursday. Then they decided against it. The call-up actually would have went against the most recent policy in which they say no one should be called up from NXT unless it is booked months in advance. That way they could finish up other storylines and tie up loose ends on Wednesday night. With all of the details surrounding Priest's move to the main roster being up in the air, it is confirmed, or it has been confirmed, that he is scheduled for a spot on Raw or SmackDown regardless in the near future. If they nixed the plans for him to be on SmackDown, I don't know why they just don't build him up for a spot on SmackDown. It doesn't take a lot to build up somebody like Damian Priest. Give me a video montage or a video package coming soon. What happened to these simple ways to build someone up? Put some fucking footage together. Have him cut some promo. Coming soon. Have him get in front of the microphone. That's one of his biggest strengths. No, but we're here wanting to put him with Kevin Owens. They have absolutely nothing to do with each other. And you want him to play Owens' best friend when his real life best friend is actually on the fucking roster. Bryan makes more sense for this storyline, but you got Bryan fucking doing the Macarena with Otis. I don't believe these fucking people. I don't believe it. Doesn't Bryan make more sense? Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Kevin Owens and Daniel Bryan agree to be a tag team? Now makes as more sense than ever before. Not as a staple in the tag team division, but against a common enemy. Bryan's been feuding with Uso. Owens is feuding with Reigns. Don't you think that Kevin Owens should team with Bryan in this battle against the Bloodline? No, but you want to go get Damian Priest and make everything not make sense. If he's going to SmackDown, then put him on SmackDown. If Bryan wants baby faces, then put him on SmackDown. Why do we need more talent to fucking die on Monday Night Raw is the better question. How is anybody excited about Damian Priest being brought up to the main roster? You do realize that they fucked Keith Lee. They changed Keith Lee. Keith Lee does not look the same. Keith Lee has not done really anything outside of the match he did with Drew McIntyre on Monday. Nothing about Keith Lee has resembled NXT Keith Lee. If they want Keith Lee to wrestle as a big man, what do you think they're going to do with a legit big man in Damian Priest? They're going to have him work the Baron Corbin style. Meanwhile, Damian Priest, I'm watching the match, carrying across, razor's edge, planches over the top rope, going to the top rope, spinning heel kicks off the top rope, cross bodies. The guy can work. Yeah, WWE will waste no time into suppressing Damian Priest. No time at all. They'll make this guy the next babyface Baron Corbin. That's what they'll do. They'll change his fucking theme music, which fits him perfectly. They'll take the bow and arrow thing away from him, which looks fucking great visually as he makes his entrance. The fire where he shoots the arrow onto the screen. Priest shows up. They'll fucking take his spotlighted entrance down where he stands in the ring and he does that fucking thing he does. They'll take it all away. They'll take it all away. Why? Because they love to change. They didn't come up with it, so why the fuck should they care? There's a vendetta against NXT and Triple H. Triple H did it. He came up with it. He created it. He's given these guys fucking characters for main roster to be presented, these characters on a fucking gold platter, and they do nothing with them. Don't get me started. This is a hot button topic here. Ricochet, Black, Lee, Riddle, how many more guys you want called up to be buried? On Monday Night Raw, of all fucking places. When Raw touches it, it dies. I would hope you all know that by now. At least on SmackDown, he's got a sliver of a chance to survive. Not much. But they already have guys like that on the main roster. There. Yeah, let's bring Priest up and pair him with Owens as his best friend. You fucking serious? News coverage takes a chunk out of NXT and AEW ratings. No shit. AEW had New Year's Smash Night 1. NXT had New Year's Evil, which was a great show, by the way. I actually preferred NXT over AEW this week. That's just me. But the best match of the night goes to Omega and Rey Fenix, no question. AEW was down. NXT was up in total viewers. It was AEW that took the win this week in viewership, and they won the key demo. No surprise there. However, both shows appear to have impacted or have been impacted by the news coverage of the pro-president supporters invading the U.S. Capitol. Dynamite drew 662,000 live viewers, and NXT did 641,000 live viewers. Last week, AEW drew 977,000 live viewers for the Brody Lee tribute, and NXT did 586,000 live viewers. Like I said, AEW had New Year's Smash. That was headlined by Kenny Omega, defending the world title against Rey Fenix. WWE had Finn Balor defend the NXT title against Kyle O'Reilly. And the top 150 shows on cable list has yet to be released. But AEW won in all demographics, I'm assuming, outside of the ages 50 plus, 0.25 to NXT's 0.16 in the 18 to 49 demographic. But yes, the news impacted wrestling immensely. I don't make excuses. You guys know me. If there was a better show. In fact, I just said NXT was a better show than AEW. So we don't tug those lines. We don't walk those lines here when it comes to, oh, I prefer this one over that one because fuck AEW or fuck NXT, fuck WWE. I don't say any of that shit. If it's a better show, I give you the opinion of, yes, NXT was a better show. And by all means, I enjoyed NXT more than I did AEW this week. Cross and Priest was a great match. Two Bronx guys. I got to support my Bronx brethren over here. Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Gonzalez was fantastic. And Kyle O'Reilly versus Finn Balor was a great main event. Not the level of Phoenix Omega, but it was a great main event. Both of those guys beat the shit out of each other, as did Omega and Phoenix. So news coverage, yes, is a legit, I'm not even saying it's an excuse. It's the legit reason why both shows were down. Otherwise, we'd be seeing a closer race in the 800 to 850,000 range, not 662 to 641. News absolutely impacted both shows on Wednesday night. NXT saw Cross beat Priest, probably Priest's last match. There's nothing more for him to do down in NXT. Santos Escobar defeated Gran Metalik and retained the Cruiserweight Championship. Xia Li. I thought that the presentation of Xia Li was fantastic. I don't know who the fuck this ghostly entity is that is powering Boa and Xia Li, but the presentation of this was unreal. They put a lot of effort into this, man. I am very curious to know who this person is, this ghostly figure. Half of her face was covered and all white. I don't know if she's a legit wrestler. I don't know if she's going to be an entity there that empowers Xia Li and Boa. I have no idea. I don't really know. But it was a beautiful presentation in what looked to be a restart of Xia Li on NXT. She defeated Katrina Cortez, squash match. Raquel Gonzalez defeated Rhea Ripley in a last woman standing match. These two women beat the shit out of each other. And it ended when Raquel Gonzalez drove Rhea Ripley through the stage on the ramp. It sounded great. It looked great. Rhea Ripley probably headed to the main roster. During this match, she got beat by Dakota Kai, who tried to make a save here for Raquel with a kendo stick. Rhea Ripley shoved her in a locker. Reminded me of Screech Powers being shoved in a locker by geeks and bullies at Bayside High. How she fit in that locker, I have no idea. But it was a great match. And you could tell, I say this every time I talk about NXT, you can tell how high they are on Raquel Gonzalez, man. I don't want to start making ridiculous comparisons, but I mean, she's got it. And we could be looking at, nobody will reach the level of a Chyna, but we could be looking at a modern day woman with the same attributes as Chyna. That's how good she is. And she's gotten a lot better. I wasn't a big fan of her when they first paired her with Dakota Kai, but she has gotten a lot better. She looks the part. She feels the part. And they put her over Rhea. Rhea's been a punching bag for everybody, which, in my eyes, doesn't really bode well for her on the main roster. But Rhea Ripley, it seems that this last woman standing match is done. That's it. And I'll talk about Rhea Ripley in just a little bit, because she's due for a main roster call-up, and I could absolutely 100% see her being in the Royal Rumble. Shotzi Blackheart and Kushida versus Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae. I thought Candice was injured, but apparently not. She was wrestling. But Shotzi and Kushida get the victory here over The Way. They had a great segment. Johnny is so great at his heel character. It is just fun to watch. It really is. I'm a big Johnny guy. I'm like, they're not going to do this right. Johnny should just be a babyface forever. But man, oh man, is he fucking awesome as a heel. He really is. And with Kushida getting involved, they already announced a takeover for February 14th on Valentine's Day. With Kushida being involved here and Johnny being the North American title or champion, we could see the North American title being on the line at TakeOver with Johnny defending against Kushida. A lot of people have asked, well, Kushida's got no direction. It does seem like that, but they've been giving him some big victories last year, and they got a victory here, him and Shotzi. But the ceiling of Kushida, it doesn't go past NXT. This is it for him. He's reached his maximum WWE potential. But I could see that being the North American title match at TakeOver in February, which right now doesn't have a name. WWE announced the Dusty Classic for the men, Tag Team Classic, and a women's Dusty Tag Team Classic, which I don't know if it's going to start next week, like the men. It may see the men's finish and then we do the women, but it makes sense. WWE in the men's Dusty is pairing teams together for the sake of putting teams together so they have 8 teams. The women right now in WWE, that makes a little bit more sense because there's no legit tag teams in the women's division on NXT, but the strength of the division in general is probably going to wield a better Dusty Classic than the men. So I'm loving this. I think that's a fantastic idea. The thing is, WWE has to keep the women's division at this level going into the future. They can't take, and then, try and resupply slowly. Can't have WWE take all these women up to the main roster and then not replenish. You got to be easy with it. I don't know how many women they have in the Performance Center ready to come up, but I'm really excited about a women's Dusty Classic. I think that's a great idea. So kudos to whoever came up with that. Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly had a great match for the NXT title. Finn Balor retains. Kyle O'Reilly seemed very, very down on losing. This was a good match, not better than that pay-per-view match, but good. Balor sold his jaw. O'Reilly sold his jaw. They went after each other's jaws here. Balor was bleeding at the end of this thing from his eye socket, I believe. He had some really bad bruising on his head. They legitimately beat the shit out of each other, man. I think they honestly should stay away from each other because it looks like every time they get in the ring together, they legitimately bust each other open. I know they love that strong style shit, but holy shit, guys. Balor probably moving on to Karrion Kross. I don't know whether that's going to be at the pay-per-view on the 14th. Seems like it. I figured they would save that for WrestleMania. Balor actually mentioned who he wants during WrestleMania weekend, and he mentioned Kross. Good versus evil. Demon versus whatever the fuck Karrion Kross is. Devil. I don't know. NXT was awesome this week. Kudos to them. AEW saw Kenny Omega defeat Rey Fenix in probably what was the match of the entire night on both shows. With the Good Brothers invading, aligning with the Bucks and Omega. Excellent. So we got the Young Bucks as AEW Tag Team Champions. The Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson coming over from Impact as the Impact Tag Team Champions. And Omega. Omega has surrounded himself with champions. Omega has surrounded himself with gold. Not really the belt collector, but the club have collected some nice hardware for themselves. We don't know what this means. We can make assumptions all we want. We know the Impact partnership. This could lead to a New Japan partnership. Who knows? A lot of people are insinuating that Omega is going to beat Rich Swann for the Impact title. People are insinuating that Omega is going to go to New Japan and beat Kota Ibushi for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and really be the belt collector. Maybe that's what it's all leading to, Omega versus Ibushi. Ibushi is Omega's best friend. The Golden Lovers. Could we be looking at a mega match on American soil between those two? I don't know. We'll see what happens. A major Impact, New Japan, and AEW mega show, WrestleMania weekend. I don't know, man. I don't know. Cody Rhodes defeated Matt Sydal. Snoop Dogg was by ringside. He jumped off the top rope and delivered what was the worst big splash ever. But he had a good time doing it. I didn't really give a shit about it. It was awful, but Snoop is genuine, and I appreciate that. And I watched that Go Big show. It's pretty interesting. I watched it on Thursday night. It's pretty interesting with Snoop and Cody as judges on that show, TBS. Wardlow defeated Jake Hager. Young Bucks and SCU defeated The Acclaimed and The Hybrid 2, Jack Evans and Angelico. Hikaru Shida defeated Abaddon to retain the Women's Championship. Darby Allin and Brian Cage had a TNT title weigh-in. New TNT title was presented. The old one was retired in memory of Brody Lee, given to -1. Darby has a new black TNT title, and it looks magnificent. Jon Moxley returned, cut a promo on Omega. He was actually destroyed by the Elites in the main event, and Moxley now needs to assemble a team to back him against the most dominating faction in all of pro wrestling. WWE, like I mentioned before, we mentioned Damian Priest, we mentioned Rhea Ripley. WrestleVotes is reporting that Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens nixed this storyline with Damian Priest. PW Insider also mentioned that Priest is headed to the main roster, but they're also reporting that Rhea Ripley lost to Raquel Gonzalez because she is finishing up with NXT and will be moved to either Raw or SmackDown. I see Rhea moving to Monday Night Raw, and I will talk about that in a second. Priest received a lot of praise behind the scenes because of the improvements he's made to his in-ring work and his physique. He looks great. He looks great physically, and he looks great in the ring. I'm a big fan of Damian Priest. But this is the price you pay when you're a fan of somebody on NXT. Everybody that we are a fan of dies on the main roster, and then we don't like them anymore. That's the way of the world in WWE. The feeling on him is that he's got a pretty good chance at getting pushed on the main roster because he is someone who Vince McMahon would treat as a top star. He is a little older. He's 37, 38 years old, so we'll see what happens about that. Ripley, many believe was going to be the next breakout star in the women's division. She's flopped big time. She has nothing about her that stands out at all anymore. She's lost all of that appeal. Thank you, Charlotte. Many believe Rhea could be a top star on the main roster because of her look and her in-ring work. Now, Priest, if he moves to Raw, goodbye. SmackDown's probably the best bet for Damien Priest. Rhea Ripley, I see moving to Monday Night Raw. And hear me out on this. Charlotte and Asuka are the women's tag team champions. Charlotte and Asuka is predicted to be the women's championship match for the Raw women's title at WrestleMania. Now, I don't want to see that again because we know exactly what the outcome is going to be. We know what it's going to be. If Rhea Ripley, now I don't want to see her win the Royal Rumble. I don't. I would go with somebody else. I would go with whoever Sasha is going to wrestle at WrestleMania to win the Royal Rumble, whether that's Bayley or whether that's Bianca. Rhea Ripley could win the Elimination Chamber. Rhea Ripley could get a title shot against Asuka at WrestleMania. Charlotte, we know, is going to be there. Now, I don't know if WWE wants to give Charlotte the title before WrestleMania or they want Charlotte to be without the championship. I doubt that's the case. This company has brought her back and immediately put title gold on her, so I'm assuming they want her to be the Raw Women's Champion. Maybe she beats Asuka. We have a breakup of this team. They lose the tag team championships back to Shayna or Nia or Riot Squad or somebody, Mandy and Dana, Mandy and Catering, who the fuck knows. If Charlotte wins the championship back and Rhea Ripley wins the Elimination Chamber, we get a rematch of WrestleMania 36 with Rhea Ripley getting her win back. I could see that being the case. But what if Charlotte is the champion, Asuka clearly is going to be in contention, Rhea wins the Elimination Chamber? What if we weasel ourselves into a triple threat match of sorts, if WWE could book it to make sense, where Charlotte is the champion and Asuka wants to avenge her losses to Charlotte at WrestleMania, Rhea wants to avenge her loss to Charlotte at WrestleMania? What if we get Charlotte in a triple threat match with Asuka and Rhea Ripley, where she has to overcome her past WrestleMania opponents to move to the future? Sounds like it's a better idea than Charlotte, Rhea Ripley 2, or Asuka and Charlotte, what would that be, 7? I don't want to see that again at WrestleMania. I don't advocate for these triple threat matches. I think it should be a one-on-one match for the title, but in this instance, I would make an exception. Rhea, Asuka, and Charlotte at WrestleMania for the Women's Championship, with Rhea Ripley obviously winning the title. Now, that's not going to erase the year of terrible booking, and I don't think WWE is going to aid her in getting her back to where she should be as champion with that roster, but it would help her now, and maybe it could get better in the future. I'm just looking at WrestleMania to be different. I don't want WrestleMania to have this sameness. Reigns, Goldberg, Drew, Lesnar. Lesnar's another wild card. We don't know what the fuck he's doing. You think Vince McMahon doesn't want Lesnar in WrestleMania? Right? I don't want to see this sameness at WrestleMania. Rhea, Asuka, and Charlotte, triple threat, Raw Women's title. Let me know what you think. Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa were supposed to have an NXT Fight Pit match on Wednesday. That was axed. Apparently, Timothy Thatcher was injured and couldn't compete in the contest, so they took the match off the show. It was noted that he suffered an injury while training for the match. PW Insider reports that Thatcher is not legitimately injured. It's all kayfabe. WWE made the call to push the match back, and they came up with the injury storyline to cover up the delay. Although an exact date for this contest is not known yet, the match is expected to take place in the weeks ahead on the weekly television show. WWE probably said, you know what, this show is stacked enough as it is. And they thought they had a very good chance of beating AEW with what they had presented without the Fight Pit match, that they're saving it as an attraction for later on down the line. Or WWE knew that they were going to put on a good show, but the ratings were going to be drastically affected by the Capitol bullshit that happened in Washington, D.C. with the president, and they didn't want to put all their eggs in one basket. So they saved this one for a rainy day where AEW might not have anything going on. They could put that match on the show and kind of build the show around that special attraction, giving them the advantage on a Wednesday night. That's what I'm thinking here. They didn't really need that match because that show was loaded on Wednesday night. And it was good. Very good. But he's not hurt. They just came up with a way to delay this match happening. Monday Night Raw, Legends Night, drew over 2 million viewers. Not by much, though. According to Showbuzz Daily, the show drew an average of 2.128 million viewers. This is up from the 1.769 million viewers a week ago. WWE hasn't drawn over 2 million viewers since August. Since August. That's awful. WWE was expecting to get a big boost in viewership with its Legends Night special. Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan made appearances on the show. Raw also didn't have to go up against Monday Night Football on ESPN. The 18 to 49 demos saw Hour 1 do a 0.7, 0.66 in Hour 2, and a 0.68 in Hour 3. The hourly breakdown was a 2.197, 2.150, and a 2.036. Legends, they failed. To compare, the last time WWE did a Legends show was the Raw Reunion special in 2019. That episode did 3.093 million viewers. Raw 25 was the last show before that, the 25th anniversary of Monday Night Raw. That was in 2018. That show did 4.530 million viewers. Yet I have people claiming to me that the show is a success. Where? People are tired of the gimmicks. People are tired of seeing Flair and Hogan and Big Show and Tatanka. Alicia Fox is not a legend. She's not a legend, folks. At all. I don't see how this was a draw of a show. I don't see how this was a rating success for WWE. It failed. And then we got Bill being back, which you already know how I feel about that. Nothing made sense on this show. Absolutely nothing made sense on this show. If you think this is a rating success, you're defending garbage. You're defending WWE doing blatantly wrong. It shouldn't even be a thing. They should be writing better television. People will watch. They should be engaging the audience with writing that is consistent and logical on a weekly basis. They should be building superstars. Minus the 50-50 booking. Making these men and women strong to a point where we want to watch. Strong to a point where matches down the road will be important. I don't see how this was a success, folks. Raw 25, 3 years ago. Raw 25, 3 years ago, did 4.530. Where did all those people go? That's 2.5 million people not watching the show now. Why? Because it fucking sucks. That's why. Write better television. Monday Night Raw. What happened on the show? Drew McIntyre defeated Keith Lee in what was a decent television match. You're going to love the way they shoved Keith Lee out of the way. In comes Goldberg. Completely took Keith Lee's spotlight and thunder away. Had all the legends on the stage to hype up Keith Lee, making the match bigger than it really was. And then Goldberg comes and, like Thanos, snaps his finger and goodbye, Keith Lee. What does Keith Lee do at WrestleMania now? Who the fuck cares? Yet you're all excited about Damien Priest going to Monday Night Raw. You are a complete imbecile. Decent match. Keith Lee still wrestles like a soulless human being. Randy Orton defeated Jeff Hardy. By the way, actually, it's in the news. I'll get to it. It has to do with Goldberg. Randy Orton, who should have been in the main event with Goldberg. Randy Orton defeated Jeff Hardy. Dana Brooke defeated Shayna Baszler in 60... Excuse me. Gotta hydrate myself, man. I'm making mental errors here. Catering defeated Shayna Baszler in 60 seconds. Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce defeated Charlotte Flair and Asuka due to outside interference from Ric Flair. Woo! Yeah. Botch. The Lucha House Party defeated the Hurt Business. If you read that in the newspaper, you might have thought that the person writing it up made a typo. No, folks, it's legit. Lucha House Party defeated the Hurt Business. Awesome, right? Yeah. 50-50 booking. You build up the Hurt Business for the entire year of 2020 to have them lose on the first Raw of the year to the Lucha House Party. Matt Riddle defeated Bobby Lashley, who you built up all year to be the most protected on the roster, yet you have him lose as United States champion to Matt Riddle via a fuck finish. Just because you got to get Riddle and Lashley at the Rumble in a title match. Go fuck yourself, Bruce Pritchard. And fuck Bill Goldberg. New Day defeated John Morrison and The Miz. Like we didn't see that all last year for about 7 months. Mustafa Ali says Legends Night is exactly what is wrong with the WWE product. You don't say. You don't say. Now, he was on Raw Talk following Raw. Who watches Raw Talk? I have no idea. You're all busy watching me. He's the leader of Retribution. He was on Legends Night. Oh, he actually wasn't on Legends Night. He was on Raw Talk talking about Legends Night. And he says, Legends Night is exactly what is wrong with WWE. He said, retired wrestlers taking spots away from younger talent on the roster is not the way we should be going about this. Now, clearly, Retribution's gimmick is to complain about this type of stuff. That's their whole motto. So obviously this was done in character, but Jesus fucking Christ, man. Just like Ricochet showing the emotion a couple of weeks ago while he was being asked what went wrong in his WWE run, to this. There is truth in this guy's words, even though it is a work. This is a worked shoot, no matter who you are talking to. You're not going to convince me that this guy didn't mean every fucking word in this promo. That's why I'm talking about it. Says, and I quote, I am agitated. I'm angry. But most of all, I'm confused. We dedicated a 3-hour show to old has-beens. You wanted to call them legends or whatever. They had their time. A night like tonight is exactly what is wrong with this company. 3 hours to guys that can barely walk. I am not bewildered. I know that the generation before me paved the way, but when the hell are you going to let me walk on that path? Guys like Drew Gulak, Akira Tozawa, guys like myself, all of Retribution, not on the show. Why? Because we need to hear what you're gonna do, brother. Again. For the 7th millionth time. They pumped the cheers real good. Why don't you give us a chance? People who can contribute to this business and further this company. No, let's push them all aside and give 3 hours to people that can barely walk. They carved a path. When do I get to walk on that path? For anyone who doesn't understand what I'm saying, it's not because I'm talking fast. It's because you're listening slow. This place needs change, and I am that change. End quote. You mean to tell me that Mustafa Ali didn't mean every fucking word in that promo? Give me a break. Is he correct? 1,000% correct. What will WWE do to change? Nothing. This is exactly what they want. WWE uses somebody like Ali to throw it back in your face what is wrong with the company when they full and willingly know that this company sucks for reasons like this. Truth in plain sight. They're trying to hide the truth about how this show and this company sucks by making Ali cut a promo on it, thinking that people are going to listen to him and think it's legit. It is legit. It's just coming off like a work. Give me a break. The original main event segment and the plans for it on Monday Night Raw. PW Insider reports that the original plan for the opening segment was supposed to see Hogan do a promo in the ring. Plans changed when Hogan did the cold open backstage talking about his H-phone. Yeah, his H-phone. How many of them are on the market? 0. Would any of you buy an H-phone? I don't think so. Speaking of Flair and Hogan, it was noted that they sat in on the production meeting for this show. I'm sure Flair had something to do with Charlotte. And Hogan, oh, you can't bury me with these youngsters, brother. I refuse to put anybody over, brother. Randy Orton's not going to give me an RKO, brother. I just had my 98th back surgery, brother. Sure. I gotta look good because everyone thinks I'm a racist, brother, so let me talk up the whitest guy on the roster, brother. It's exactly what they did. So, Hogan sat in on the production meeting with Flair. Closing segment of the show saw the WWE Champion Drew McIntyre retain his title over Keith Lee in a decent match. Wasn't match of the year like they were exclaiming it to be. Goldberg, Bill, I wish he was admitted to a nursing home, Goldberg, made his return to confront and challenge Drew McIntyre to a match at the Royal Rumble. The original plan for the closing segment called for Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy to take place. However, the decision was made late in the day to close with McIntyre and Lee in order to do this angle with Goldberg. Now, if you guys watch Raw, which I don't know who the fuck is watching Raw, man. I really don't. If you watched Raw, Randy Orton went around Monday Night Raw making fun and disrespecting all of the legends. But Goldberg wants to come out in the main event. He wants to interrupt Drew McIntyre, who was getting ready to put over Keith Lee in what I thought was a decent match for the WWE title. Goldberg wants to come out and exclaim that Drew McIntyre was disrespectful to the legends on Monday Night Raw. Now, I don't know if Bill is a slave to the WWE or he's just plain fucking dumb, but in what way, shape, or form has Drew McIntyre disrespected any legend? The last time we seen Drew McIntyre on Legends Night, he was in a segment with Jimmy Hart and Hulk Hogan, where he was putting over Hulk Hogan and thanking Hulk Hogan for believing in him, with no other things said about any other legends. He did a pose with Hogan. He did the "what you gonna do, brother Hogan" with Hogan. Yet he wants to go out there, Goldberg, and say that Drew McIntyre disrespected the legends. Now, I don't understand how you look at this and think this is the way to go. I don't know how you look at this and think it's logical. I don't see how you look at this and think that Drew McIntyre should be the recipient of this terrible, idiotic, illogical, nonsensical fucking promo. Bruce, does anybody fucking proofread? Sounds like to me, Bill Goldberg should have been cutting this promo on Randy Orton. Sounds like it should be Goldberg versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania. Or Royal Rumble, rather. Goldberg versus Randy Orton, God forbid, at WrestleMania. At Royal Rumble. Isn't that the way it should have been based on what was given via these promos? Yeah, but Goldberg comes out there and says that Drew McIntyre was disrespecting all the legends on the stage. Has he watched the product since he buried the Fiend? Probably not. Probably not. According to Fightful, some backstage were hopeful that Goldberg would go out there and make things make sense via the promo. He didn't help the situations as he recited the lines he was given out there in front of everybody. That didn't clear anything up at all. Those that we spoke to, says Fightful, backstage, said that they were hopeful that Goldberg would ad-lib during this promo to make up for things, but understand that he was just delivering the lines as instructed. Oh, you're asking Bill Goldberg to go out there and do something that benefits the company. Yeah, right. Are you fucking serious? Oh, my God. How dumb are people in this community? You expected Bill Goldberg to go out there and fix and make sense of everything and take all of this bullshit heat away from Drew McIntyre where he looked like a blithering idiot because everybody watching knows that Drew didn't say any of that. Why are you putting him in this situation? Should be Randy he's talking to, not Drew McIntyre. Goldberg did what he did, yeah, but Goldberg doesn't give a fuck about the company. This is the exclamation point on everything that I said about this guy previously and last year. Goldberg is only there for Goldberg. Goldberg is only out there for Bill. He's not out there for Drew. He's not out there for the fans. He's not out there for the Fiend. He's not out there for anybody, any of the youngsters. He's out there for Bill Goldberg because in his sick and delusional, twisted fucking mind, he thinks he's some sort of superhero. I don't know who the fuck gives a shit about Bill Goldberg in 2021. Your superhero powers are dead, Bill. And you didn't even have many to begin with. If you read your fucking promo and you knew who you were going to be reciting that promo to, you would have realized then and in that moment, hey, Vince, this doesn't make sense. And then Vince and Bruce are dumb enough to go out there and think that Bill is going to aid in their mistakes. Bruce looks like an idiot. Vince looks like an idiot. Goldberg looks like a fucking moron. And rightfully so. You get what you sow, clown. What a fucking shit show that segment was. Goldberg only gives a shit about Goldberg. If he wanted to fix it, he could have absolutely fixed it. But it sounds like he's a fucking idiot. And he didn't have the brain power to think quick on his feet. Maybe if he realized oil needed to be changed in his fucking Mustang, maybe he'd get to that in a prompt manner. But fixing a fucking promo? Give me a break. Fixing something that's gonna make everybody look good? Fuck that! Give me a break. Bill Goldberg was hidden, finally, to end this fucking nonsense. Goldberg was hidden backstage until he made his entrance and was not listed on the script for last night's show. Ooh. Yes, because it would have even angered me more so to know 4 hours ahead of time that Goldberg was in the building. Carlito. I spit in the face of Goldberg because he doesn't want to be cool. Carlito turned down a WWE Raw appearance after, now get this, people were reporting, oh, it was travel issues. Oh, it was miscommunication. Folks, Carlito didn't show up on Raw. When you wanted to see him take a bite out of the apple and I spit in the face of people who don't want to be cool. Yes, Carlito, I get it. He turned down his Raw appearance after he found out what Vince had planned for him. He promptly said, no, thank you. But WWE hyped him up anyway. Candice Michelle told Wrestling Inc., who was also advertised for this shit, Candice Michelle told Wrestling Inc. that she was falsely promoted and was never asked to be on the show. But in Carlito's case, they did try to get him on the show, but he declined. Now, Mike Johnson says on PW Insider Elite that Carlito was told what he was going to be doing on the show, and he was not interested after he was told what they had in mind for him. Johnson said, I was told Carlito found out he was only getting a cameo and said, hey, thanks, but when you want me to come wrestle or do something, I'll be happy to do it. I don't want to travel across the country to do a 2-minute cameo. 2 minutes? You'll be lucky if they gave you fucking 30 seconds with the bullshit that we've seen on this show. After Raw ended, Carlito indicated on Twitter that he was not bothered by not being a part of Legends Night. Who gives a shit? Good for Carlito. He made the right decision. That's all I could say about that. And fuck WWE for wanting him to travel with restrictions on flights from fucking other places to come and do a 2-minute segment in fucking Florida. Why put yourself through all that headache when you could sit at home and watch shitty television instead of being a part of shitty television? Why Randy Orton never confronted Hulk Hogan like he did the other legends on Legends Night? Now, throughout the night, we got the legend killer verbally killing legends backstage, confronting legends like Mark Henry and The Big Show and Ric Flair. WWE made strong use of the opportunity to emphasize the legend killer aspect of his persona. He did bring that back during the feud with Edge and then going into the WWE title program with Drew McIntyre. Hogan was amongst many of the Hall of Famers who made an appearance on the show, as you guys know. But Orton never confronted Hulk Hogan, a man who defeated him at the 2006 SummerSlam pay-per-view. Now, according to Meltzer, Hogan had no interest in being part of such a segment. He says, and I quote, "The one thing about Hogan is that Hogan isn't going to come in and be buried, whereas the rest of them are just going to do whatever they are told." End quote. So what this means is that Hogan in his 30s is the same as Hogan in his 60s. Great. Hogan refusing to put over current talent. What else is fucking new, brother? Who gives a shit? This is hopefully the last time we see Hogan on fucking television. Speaking of Randy Orton, possible plans for a Firefly Funhouse match scrapped at the Royal Rumble. This is coming from various sites. The report indicated that WWE was planning on having a Firefly Funhouse match between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton at the Royal Rumble, but it appears as if those plans have been dropped. On Monday's episode of Raw, Randy Orton confirmed that he's going to be a part of the Royal Rumble match this year, leading some to speculate that those plans for this special gimmick match have been scrapped. Now, while we've seen wrestlers work matches earlier in the night and then go into the Rumble match later on, it would be strange to have a special gimmick match, like a Firefly Funhouse match, and then Orton just go into the Rumble just an hour or later, later in the show. An hour or two later. Unless they want to completely bury Bray Wyatt's character even more so, then by all means, go and do that. Ruining the entire illusion of what they created with this supposed Firefly Funhouse match. Who gives a shit? I'd rather Orton be in the Royal Rumble anyway. Gives Edge a reason to come back and eliminate Randy Orton and then pick up the feud on Monday night following the Rumble. Who wants another Funhouse match? The first one wasn't even that good. It's creative, but I wouldn't call it a match. Give me a break. Enough of these fucking theatrics. Let's get down to business. Start rebuilding the motherfucker so he can get back to where we expect him to be. Ric Flair. The Ric Flair spot where he tripped up Charlotte was botched and not meant to be a heel turn on Charlotte. Now, for those that missed it, Charlotte and Asuka teamed up to take on Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce. Evans kept getting close to Ric Flair in order to get in Charlotte's mind. In the closing seconds of the match, Ric tripped his daughter, and that cost her the match. Turns out that Ric was actually supposed to trip Peyton Royce, but someone was not in position, and the spot was botched. I'm going to put my money on Peyton Royce not being in position. It just goes with what I've been saying about the Iconics. Trash. Brian Alvarez confirmed on the Observer Live, says, and I quote, "I've just been alerted," by the way, for those of you that watched Raw, that in fact the story was supposed to be Rick was trying to trip Peyton, and it was supposed to be an accident. End quote. But he tripped Charlotte. She got in his face. I'm sure she ad-libbed something to him, walked away, and then they promptly took a picture after the show was over. Charlotte tweeting out, "I can never be mad at you, Dad. I love you larger than the sky itself," or something along those lines. So there you go. Legends Night proving to be a failure, as always. And finally, guys, before we get out of here, speaking of failures, I cannot leave out one limited Keith Lee. Keith Lee, he knows his days are numbered on Raw. Now, I actually would book him and Lesnar at WrestleMania. That's just me. Will that happen? Probably not. He spoke to Bleacher Report, and Keith Lee talked about the negative backlash from fans when he made his Raw debut. Oh, you found out about that, Keith Lee. How you realized that there were people who were upset. They were in your corner, but they were upset. Says, and I quote, "Originally, honestly, even though I was a little perplexed, you get all the people who came up to Raw who still use their old music. Mind you, none of them did their own music. I'm the only one that did. So it would make more sense for me to be the one to keep my music. He said it, I didn't, folks. I've been uttering the same fucking thing for months now. However, that did not happen. Now, CFO Money, whatever the fucking proper pronunciation is of their name, we still have their influence on today's show. Bianca Belair, Shayna Baszler, right? Everybody in NXT, Adam Cole, Undisputed Era, Finn Balor, Street Profits. I mean, there are Matt Riddle. There are several people that came up from NXT that have CFO Money theme music. But Keith Lee was not allowed to have his music, which I don't understand why. Nobody else was asked to change, but you had to change Keith Lee's music. You did it because you wanted to do it with no reason whatsoever. You did it maliciously to bury the motherfucker. However, that did not happen. They asked me to do something else, and I did. And I tried to be as accommodating as possible by putting the front of the song, of the old song, on the track, and it just didn't vibe. It was rough, man. I did my best, given the circumstances, and I was like, I just have to ride with this until I can figure something out. Man, they blew up on the internet, and it was like, I thought you guys were my friends. I think I'm starting to understand some things here. Between the gear and the music, I just got destroyed. You can blame Bruce on that, Keith Lee. You can blame Bruce and Vince and how they don't watch NXT and how they look down on NXT talent. And the fact that you were not a product of them. You were a product of Triple H. And you were highly touted in NXT. They want to make you and break you. They want to break you and then make you in their own image. They don't want to take you from NXT and make you based on the work that another team put into you. They want to break you, put work into you, have you be successful because of them. But meanwhile, they don't realize that they broke you down so much that now you're fighting way behind, and it's going to be a struggle to get back to where you were when you were already there. You should have been an easy transition on the main roster. They took everything from your music, your gear, your ring style, your presence, your attitude, everything. Now he wrestles like Mark Henry, taking away all of his big dives and his high-flying moves that made Keith Lee stand out. Same thing's gonna happen to Damian Priest when they see him doing fucking spinning heel kicks off the top rope and fucking planches and topes. They're gonna take it away. Why are they gonna allow someone like that to do that when they got Seth Rollins to do that? Seth Rollins ain't fucking 6'8". That's Rollins style, not Damian Priest. But that's what they don't grasp. That's what makes them special. That's what made Keith Lee special. His music was perfect. You ruined it. They put a shirt on you because Vince thinks you're fat. You're not appealing to him. Now you understand, he says. Now I'm starting to understand some things around here. Yeah, go and get your name copyrighted, bro, and then call up Tony Khan and get the fuck out of there when you can. Keith Lee is going nowhere on the main roster. Nowhere. Guys, I'm getting out of here. Thank you so much for a great show. Had a blast doing this show, man. If you enjoyed any part of this, let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on that bell for all notifications. Patreon.com/JD from NY206. Go check out all the other videos that you might have missed down in the description below. Mouthmastery.com/OTS. Bonfire.com/nothing. It's down there. It's down in the description, man. Go and check it. And then you got Twitter @JD from NY206. Same thing on Instagram @JD from NY206. Guys, I'm getting out of here. I'll see you back with a brand new week on Monday of WWE content. Hit that thumbs up, and I'll see you guys right back here on episode 360 next week on OTS. See you guys later.